Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you here this afternoon. My name is Herman Piana. I'm Key Account Manager at Pharma, and I would like to talk to you about a case study in novel high-volume RABS-based prefilled syringe manufacturing for vaccines in particular, and how the pharmaceutical industry, including ourselves, is responding to these future public needs. What I'm going to talk about, a brief overview about the vaccine market, some emerging fields in vaccines and new indications coming up, some of the manufacturing challenges that come with it, some current vaccine delivery trends, and a small outlook about the situation, how prefilled syringe in the vaccine market will be successful in the future compared to vials. And also our answer to that, we are preparing an innovative, highly flexible, high-speed filling line. We'll introduce some characteristics of the new line and also draw some conclusions at the end. Vaccines really have re-emerged as growth drivers recently. If we look at the global pharmaceutical market and compare it with the global vaccine market, of course, the pharmaceutical market in total is much larger. The latest figures we have from IMS Health is that in 2011, the total global market is believed to be around $890 billion US. And with an expected average growth rate of about 3 to 6%, it may reach about $1.1 trillion US in about 2015. So compared to many other industries, certainly a very healthy market, and that's probably the reason why most of you or all of you are here. And compared to the vaccine market, of course, the market is much, much smaller. The latest figures we have seen are around $27.6 billion US in 2011. Interestingly, with a very strong growth rate of close to 9%, to reach about $33 billion US in 2013. So just by the growth rate itself, certainly also an attractive market. What are the reasons why the vaccine market has changed or is changing recently? Let's look into some drivers and trends, at least as far as we and others understand it. There's an improved understanding of the human immune system and pathogen biology, and that has enabled the development of novel vaccines and also targeted to new indications with high unmet needs. The commercial potential of novel vaccines also has been proven by the rapid uptake and commercial success of new high-value products in comparison to the classical flu vaccines, like vaccines against meningitis. Companies are facing increasingly set-directed market for basic vaccines in the West, also because the population isn't growing that fast anymore, and the number of children is also not as the number of newborn children has slowed down. And this has triggered some increased focus on the developing world with high unmet needs. Interestingly, there's of course a global aging population, and this results in a large unmet need for vaccination against disease of the elderly. And targets in this area include viruses, but also bacteria with antibiotic resistance, non-infective diseases, and things like biodefense. And last but not least, advances in molecular biology technology replacing the classical egg inoculation methods will be faster, cheaper, and safer in the production of vaccines. From this general trend, let's trickle down a little bit to the disease areas. What are attractive targets which have emerged lately? Meningitis B, as already mentioned, is widely regarded as the next near-term blockbuster opportunity. And some products here, including the Menveo and others, have demonstrated this. A second potential group are vaccines targeted against tropical diseases such as Japanese encephalitis and dengue fever. And also travelers' diseases like malaria and yellow fever are attractive vaccine targets in the Western world. At the same time, such vaccines can be supplied in endemic countries at different price levels using a low price, high volume approach. And all of that has resulted in a substantial research ongoing in this field. Excuse me. In addition, in the long-term, vaccines against infections with hospital-acquired infections such as the MDR Staphylococcus aureus are also attractive propositions, as increasing bacterial resistance is strongly limiting the efficacy of current antibiotic therapies. And maybe a little bit far out in the future, but certainly also on the horizon, are therapeutic vaccines, which represent another promising area for indications, example given here, Alzheimer. If we look at the matrix of, let's say, the market structure compared to the scientific feasibility of some of these targets, we clearly realize there is a large market of vaccines and areas which are supposed to be covered. The traditional vaccines like DTP against diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis, MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, polio, and others, also cholera, hepatitis A. I think these have been around for quite a long time, and certainly these products are more at the end of the life cycle. There's an interesting shift towards, let's say, vaccines against other indications like pneumococcal conjugate vaccines or human papilloma viruses, flu, rotavirus, and zoster. Some of these are, I would say, more in the middle of their life cycle, and there are novel targets coming up with tuberculosis, malaria, HIV, and others, where obviously these markets are not yet covered as of today. In comparison, not also the indications seem to shift. Interestingly enough, also the target groups shift. Most of these vaccines here are applied to infants, to children, or to adolescents. And of course, due to the biology, typically we see a very, very good immune response in this target group. In contrast, some of these indications target more adults, elderly, or chronically ill patients. And of course, there is an impaired immune response to be expected, so also the efficacy of some of these vaccines still need to be proven. And it's of course, we have new indications, new targets, a new target population, all of that results really in new challenges that are coming up in this area. Let's shift gears a little bit. What are current delivery trends in vaccines? We have seen recently that prefilled syringes become more and more important in newer indications, and they are highly compatible with most vaccines products, including influenza vaccines. It's a well-established technology with a fast-growing market share. In addition, new technologies like nasal sprays and transdermals came up, increasing in popularity. However, these are significantly more costly to produce and to market compared to vials or prefilled syringes. And also, with respect to the question, what do physicians prepare an integrated needle or not, it seems to be there are different trends. Some clinicians seem to be interested in predetermined needles attached to prefilled syringes during the filling. On the other side, the research indicates that many clinicians may prefer to use their own needle and take their own choice. So these are interesting trends that have to be followed. And also we have seen that the prefilled syringes begin to replace vials, at least to a certain extent, in the vaccine area. This has a number of reasons, and I'm trying to highlight a few of these. This is certainly not a complete list. Companies are looking for improvements to reduce vaccine waste. With a simple prefilled syringe, you may create less waste than with vials and disposable syringes that you need. And then the need for safer systems and formats that minimizes the potential for errors and instabilities, and smaller possible volumes for transport and storage. Clearly, the risk of a needle stick injury is widely seen to be reduced with a prefilled syringe compared to multi-dose vials, where you take multiple doses out of one vial and apply to various patients. And although in small volume vials, they are still marginally cheaper, there's estimates here from some expert review from vaccines that we have conducted that the cost for vaccination costs for the vials are still slightly lower than if you use the same amount of prefilled syringes. However, the difference is not really that strikingly big, as you may expect. And there's one big reason. Multi-dose vials take much longer to administer it as prefilled syringes. And this is certainly a key consideration in pandemic situations, where a fast initial action to vaccinate, for example, practitioners which are exposed to high risk, is key. There have been studies triggered by the 2009 pandemic, where people looked into what would it take to vaccinate about 300 million Americans. And the estimate was it would require probably some 3.1 million hours in healthcare work time, worth 110 million euros alone. And so with prefilled syringes, you could save, sorry, I mixed this up. With prefilled syringes, you could save about 3.1 million hours in healthcare worker time, which, of course, if you have to vaccinate a huge amount of people in a very short period of time, it's the timing aspect as well as the cost aspect that are important. And as a result, in the pandemic of 2009, about 10 to or 12 to 15% of the doses manufactured were prefilled syringes, so the vast majority still in multi-dose vials. However, it's believed if there were a pandemic tomorrow, that the amount and percentage of prefilled syringes would probably be closer to 30%. So, in addition to that, new vaccines pose new manufacturing challenges. If we look at many of the new vaccines coming up, they require cold chain storage and handling of the API to start with. We see more and more complex processes that are implemented. Several steps, in particular in compounding, multiple subunits are combined, conjugation is widely used, and also multivalent vaccines that during compounding have to be combined from various API sources are not uncommon these days. This requires, of course, much more careful filtration and pumping of the entire systems during the filling. We have seen increasing complexity during filling, like recirculation of suspensions are more widely used. And of course, for larger volumes, you need to have automatic visual inspection ready, secondary packaging, and a complete cold chain, not only starting from the API storage, but all the way through during the process. And this particular, the cold chain, is required to provide or to prevent the continuous threat of loss of biological activity of the vaccine. So how would the industry cope with that? We at Vetter have studied the market and decided to invest into a new high-speed filling line. This is the line in a schematic drawing here. It will be at our Ravensburg facility. The line will be called RVS 3, Ravensburg South 3, on our newest location. We will implement the line. The line will be ready for GMP production end of this year. So we are close to finishing the qualification work. The line exists of various steps. I'm going through that in the next slide. And it's been a co-development that Vetter has done with the company Bosch. And we know Bosch for a long time, and we have very good experience with this supplier of machinery, very, very robust equipment, which we have experienced to be very reliable. Some key facts of this high-speed filling line, which we have laid out in the RABS system, in the restricted access barrier system. We have a tap infeed, and it allows fully automatic processing of single and double bag taps. There is a tap data reader and printer to allow tracking of the units throughout the filling operation. Here we have co-developed with Bosch a pretty innovative disinfection tunnel, which allows a automatic spray disinfection of bagged units. We use spray disinfection widely for introducing pre-sterilized syringes into filling lines, and we believe this may be an innovative alternative to conventional e-beam technology, which is widely used today. After the debagging, which is done here, the syringe nested syringes enter the clean room here in grade A, where the filling is done. Here on the filling machine, we have various filling pump systems implemented. Of course, recirculation of suspension is possible. And we have an automatic non-destructive IPC and inline weighing for fill volume determination. So that also saves the number of units that are rejected during the fill. And then at the outfeed here, again, a unit that allows printing and reading of data. The entire line is in its layout in a closed restricted access barrier system, RABS, and as mentioned, has an automatic handling system for rejects and IPC sampling. These are some pictures of the individual steps. This is the tap infeed here before the loading. This is at the start of the disinfection tunnel. At the end, after the disinfection and debagging, the tap is going through a scanner. The tap lid needs to be removed. We enter the filling machine here. You see here the syringe filling. The line has up to 16 filling heads, and stopper setting here as well with 16 units at a time. And at the end, at the outfeed, we have a track and trace station that allows to track individual units, individual syringes, which are identified as possible rejects during the process, where we have installed a number of camera systems not shown here. To highlight the technology and capacity of the new filling line, it's really a high-speed, high-volume manufacturing line. Initially, we foresee the formats 0.5 ml, 1 ml, 1 ml long, and 3 ml. It's probably one of the largest prefilled syringe production capacities worldwide. It can produce up to 500 to 800 syringes per minute, depending on the format. And as mentioned, it's laid out in a sterile restricted access barrier design. For us, as a contract manufacturer, where we have all our lines in RABS, it provides more versatility than isolator units, and the production of multiple different products on the same line is possible. Due to this layout, we assure a very flexible model layout, which allows a rapid changeover and upgrade. And this is really one of the key topics for us. Rapid changeovers, as we serve certainly multiple clients. And as always at Vetter, this is a fully automated line. No person in grade A, it's totally unmanned, and includes a spray disinfection tunnel, some reject units, automatic IPC sampling, non-destructive inline weighing, and it's overall, of course, designed to maximize the filling speed. If you see this number here, you need to really have the setup ready for that. Yeah, let me draw some conclusions. As I've tried to show you, we see that the vaccine market is undergoing some rapid changes. We see the shift to new indications and also for different target groups, for elderly travelers, for chronically ill patients. And we've seen some new indications coming up, more in the focus than the conventional vaccines. New delivery technologies are emerging with pre-filled syringes are being more widely used than in the past. We believe that new vaccines require also more sophisticated production technologies, posing some tough manufacturing challenges. And we, from our side, we now offer a new state-of-the-art high-speed line with innovative features capable to meet such challenges. And if you would like to learn more about this new line and about our company, please come to our booth. We are just across the hallway here. And I would like to thank you for your time and for your attention.